Hey, didn't see you there.
Welcome to the Know and Grow podcast. We're your hosts, Lucas Traffin,
Lexy Krogman,
and Jonah Hoffmeyer.
Come along with us as we share the generational work of God through story and conversation. Let's jump right into it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4, Know and Grow podcast. Feels good to be back in the hot studio. How do you feel, guys?
It's humid
warm.
in here.
It's very warm in here. Lucas is like, we should get a fan. And I'm like, we need a way to, rotate the air in here without it,
making noise.
Yeah.
I wonder if the listeners would be gracious enough to listen to the background noise of a fan for our convenience.
It's true. I've noticed this. I was listening to Josh Lucas's podcast, and shout out. I was listening to it in my headphones. I was like, okay, it sounds pretty good. But then I listened to it in my car, and you can hear a lot more background noise in the car for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a really different sound. So
Solomon's Porch, check it out.
Yeah, exactly. Solomon's Porch. Yeah, he introduces it as the gospel truth. So I'm still confused why he never uses the name. But you know what? Whatever.
This podcast is not about Josh Lucas. He will get shouted out later.
It's like, wow, this is becoming
This is small. Listen, this is the small talk I chose. I'm sorry. It's my fault. All right. Well, let's get into the weekly Whatsup. Let's jump right into it. Lexy, I know the title of your book that you were reading caught my eye. I know you were like, we'll see what I get back into, because you just came back from Serbia. So you're reading something called Dispatches from the Front. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a book of collection of journal entries from this guy who spent a lot of time traveling around the world visiting with frontlines missionaries in some of the world's most hard-to-reach places. And yeah, it's just a collection of his journals of people he met, stories that he heard or encountered or witnessed. And actually, he is part of a ministry called Frontline Ministries? Something like that. That all of these dispatches, they made like a docu-series about it. And really, really interesting and encouraging. Really, really neat. So yeah, been reading through those different journal entries, as well as just started a book called The Kite Runner by, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, Khaled Hosseini. It takes place in Afghanistan, kind of during some of the conflict there, maybe, but I don't know. I'm about a third of the way through, and it's really good so far. So I'm really enjoying that for more of a free reading book.
So I know this has happened a couple times. You've been like, I have free reading books, and then I have my deep books. How do you decide when you're going to read what?
It's kind of just whatever I'm in the mood for that day. Am I feeling like just relaxing this afternoon and reading just a free read, or, is my mind more wanting to be stimulated in an intellectual way?
Sure. So it's completely free flow. You don't have your set schedule.
No, it's not like I read one book in the morning and then one book before bed. It's just kind of whatever I'm feeling at that time.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
Go for it. So that docu-series, is that available to view?
It is, but only on DVDs, and you have to purchase it through DVD. So there's nowhere where they stream it that I've found anyway.
Yeah, and that makes sense, doesn't it?
I purchased one of the episodes, which is takes place in the Balkans, which is where I was at in Serbia, and so really, really enjoyed that episode. Obviously,
that's cool.
Just getting to see some of the things that I saw and learn more about the history in those places that I was.
Yeah, that's a cool thing.
It's really, really cool.
There, speaking of missionaries, there was a extremely short film released about the Coptic 12 or something like that. The people got beheaded by ISIS in Egypt. The Christians that got beheaded by Egypt. It's a cool little short film.
When did that happen?
5 years ago, maybe.
It was longer than that. ISIS has kind of been
find out.
Well, they just beheaded 70 Christians in the Congo.
Really?
Over the weekend.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. No, that was big thing.
Wow.
Big thing.
Wow.
They talked about it in the sermon that I went to this weekend because we were talking about the Beatitudes. It's blessed are those who suffer. The last one.
Wow.
Are persecuted for
and are persecuted. Yep. And he was talking about like that got me thinking like what is the difference between suffering and persecution? So that was just a really good thought.
Future episode.
Yeah, that might be a future episode because
go.
that got me really like whoa.
Yeah.
You know. So
We talked about the Beatitudes today too. Not today. Yesterday. So.
yeah.
2015 was the beheading of the cops in Libya.
So that's 6 years ago.
Okay.
So no. Oh my word.
10 years ago.
For some reason, I was just like, it's 2021.
Jonah's still stuck in circa 2021.
Wow.
23.
Someone's like, yeah, I got a 2010 car. I'm like, oh, so it's fairly new. No, that's like 15, 20 years old already. So, anyway.
We digress.
We majorly digress. Lucas, you are, I'm sure, still trudging through Calvin's Institute.
Yes, slowly but surely.
I mean, we both.
Yeah,
that's
we
the
both
burden
are.
we both bear.
Yes.
What else are you reading?
Seminary has started back again, and I'm taking a Christian ethics class. So I'm reading a various amount of books and snippets. Snippets have included The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis.
Nice.
Some things from St. Augustine. A book called You Are What You Love. And then another book called Born Again This Way. It's a book that I'm really trudging through. Not trudging through, but I'm really focusing in on during this semester. It's about a gal who came out as gay with same-sex attraction. And then, in her words, Christ cornered her. And she converted, and in her faith, Jesus is not affirming of same-sex attraction. So, but yet she still battles that. So it's kind of the journey between that battle and living a life of obedience. So it's interesting. She's married. She has kids. It's a really good book. I really enjoy it.
Wow.
So
that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So seminary's back in swing for you. When is the semester end? When the normal school year ends?
May. Yeah, early May.
Okay. So you're reading how many books then?
I'm reading. Again, it's kind of different each week,
Sure.
right? So the book that I'm focusing on because I need to do a presentation on it is Born Again This Way.
Sure.
But then there's other things examining like, okay, what does it mean to be an ethical Christian, or what does it mean to be a Christian as a whole? What is human flourishing? What is all these other things? Where do you find your purpose? Those kinds of things. So the intermixed there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I know the Greeks were big on that, and Augustine was big in that area.
You ever hear of Plato, Socrates,
No,
Aristotle?
What? Who are those guys? That's crazy.
Morons.
Yeah, morons.
That's a quote
Thank
from Princess
you,
Bride.
Dort Education. I've told DJ this multiple times. I really want to get into theology, philosophy, because it forces you to get into someone else's mindset and to think like them. That's basically what philosophy is. And it'd make me a more empathetic person. But
I have a headache just thinking about that.
Yep, exactly. I have finishing quotation marks, Instruments in the Redeemer's Hands. I'm on the final 2 or 3 appendixes at the end. It's basically just application.
I'm kind of impressed that you're just going through the appendices.
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 That's the word.
There you go.
I was like, appendix is a part of the body, so I don't know if I was saying that right. But yes, I'm going through those. They're short reads, so it's not like... Yeah. The audiobook that I found online actually didn't have those read to me, so I was forced to read them by myself instead of listen to the audio book. It's fine. So I'm gonna finish that in the next week, and then I'll be moving on to a Theology of Biblical Counseling by Heath Lambert. I know Lexy's read that one, and that's gonna be, once I finish that one, that'll be 2 out of the 3, maybe 4, depending on what my third book is. Reading materials that I need for my ACBC, Biblical Counseling Phase 1 thing. I don't know how to exactly describe it, but...
Nice.
So yeah, that's exciting. I'm also going to be reading, shout out Matt Draffin, Basic Church.
Did it come in the mail?
It came in the mail.
Good.
So it looked like, I'm not going to say an easy read, but like...
It's an easy read.
It's broken up into
Mhm.
like smaller sections, so I'm not worried about like biting off more than I can chew.
Yeah.
Because I already have like 4 or 5 books
Right.
on my stack.
Right.
Calvin, the instruments, the Bible, of
Mhm.
course, you gotta read that.
Yep.
So
Live there.
yeah.
Visit others.
Yeah. So I'm excited for my reading journey. I
Jonah,
guess.
you asked me the question, but
Mhm.
how do you choose what you're going to read at what time? Like, is yours scheduled or is it very free flow?
Sure, that's a good question. So, if you had asked me 2 years ago, when is the proper time to do your TOG, I would have told you the morning. I am now a converted evening
Evening
Togger.
togger.
Really?
because I already have to get up early to get to work. So I don't want to wake up earlier because a lot of times I find myself, I don't know, I find it easier of a temptation to sleep in. So instead of trying to fight that temptation, I'm now fighting the temptation of I have to do it before I eat. I force myself to sit down for an hour and a half at 5 o'clock when I get home from work to do my TOG time. And I can't start making supper until I'm done my TOG. So,
How long have you been doing that?
since I started reading Calvin. So,
Gotcha.
I don't know, a couple months?
Post-Christmas?
I guess, post-Christmas.
Yeah.
So, a New Year's resolution, quote unquote, if you will. So, yeah, that's the long and short of it. I spend an hour and a half. By 6:30, I'm done.
So this will lead into discipleship, I think, because this is part of being a disciple, right?
Sure.
But so it's obviously Bible reading,
Mm-hmm.
devotional.
My devotions I actually do in the morning. I have one I'm going through with Caitlin, My Utmost for His Highest.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going through the one you gave me for 4 years,
Oh, yeah.
Inspiration
Yeah, yeah,
Hills,
yeah.
morning and
The Spurgeon
evenings
one,
with
yeah.
Spurgeon. And I do that one by myself
Mm-hmm.
in the mornings,
Sure.
right before I go to bed.
Okay.
So that's a
Mornings and
different
evenings,
time.
Sure.
And that takes
And
like
then
5 minutes.
You read
so.
like you would read instruments, and now you would read the biblical counseling during your talk time in the evening.
At 5, I'll start with the Bible. I'll move on to Calvin,
Mhm.
read my little section, and then I'll move on to instruments or now a theology of biblical counseling. So, yeah.
Where's prayer in that?
Prayer is before I start reading the Bible. I'll do something. Before I go to bed, before I eat. I don't have a
You're really just kind of
necessarily,
drilling.
I am.
I don't really know.
Fascinating. An hour and a half of talk. That's a good amount of time.
It's
And then devotionals in the morning. Like that's a lot of saturation.
and I got off the habit of doing it because of 3CA the past week.
Yeah,
we'll talk
yeah,
about
me
that.
too, yeah.
So like the whole weekend, like I had Caitlin was over, and I was like, I didn't even find time to do it this weekend. So I was really just like down on myself. I was like, I'm a terrible person. I'm like, it's not about the habits that I build around it. It's about the heart posture behind
Right.
it.
Yeah, and that can be a really difficult thing within like just like the heart of discipleship in itself, of us being a disciple. When we've like let down those habits or things that we've learned, then it's really easy to feel like, oh my gosh, we're failing Jesus.
Right.
That's a super easy pitfall to fall into.
And yeah, at this point, I'm more concerned. Like, if I had to choose one thing I wanted to grow in personally, it'd be my prayer life. Because like I still find myself like mumbling just like basic prayers, and I'm like, okay, let's get a little bit deeper than that. But that's a different discussion altogether. So, yeah, Lucas alluded to it. We're not quite there yet, but we will be talking about discipleship today. We got to get through the ministry news first. We've got a few things. I did not find, I'm sorry, there's going to be 2 people that are disappointed in me. But I did not find a fun news article for the end of ministry news.
we talked about the news, just not necessarily fun.
Not fun news.
not the fun Jonah news that he finds at the end of everyone. But
real news.
Real
So-
news.
Important news.
Winter retreat recap. Lucas, could you just give us a brief synopsis of kind of what happened at winter retreat?
A lot of fun. Period. That's it. I'm just kidding.
that is all we do at camp.
Yeah,
we
we
have
just-
fun and
we
we
have
do
fun.
nothing else.
Yes. Yeah.
That is not true.
It was a great time. A lot of kids came out, about 50 plus. Some from different churches that we haven't seen, and some that we're growing relationships with, so that's really cool. Shout out Brandon Faith United Church out there. Thanks to Pastor Tony, and also FRC in Sanborn. It's been cool to see those two churches start to come up. But yeah, really appreciated all the parents that sent their kids, and everybody who donated the time with our counselors, and also with Tanner Mann's and family. So it was a good time.
Yeah, I think our retreats, they get the people who want to come to summer camp, like, really bad, and it's like a little weekend of, like, summer camp experience, but we also have, like, the people who are retreat exclusives, I like to say, like, they come only for our retreats, and that's really cool.
Like, Wyndham Methodist.
Yeah.
All nine of Robin's kids were first timers this retreat.
She mentioned
so that was really cool.
She said they were already talking about wanting to come back. So that was, I saw that post on Facebook, I think. But it was really cool just to, the different relationships we build through the retreats. So 3CA recap. So most of the staff had the opportunity to go to the Ozarks, Eagle Sky of the Ozarks in state. Missouri, thank you. I knew it started with an M. That was a struggle. So yeah, we got to go down there. It's kind of like the fall fellowship that we hosted here, where a bunch of camps just kind of get together.
On a much bigger scale.
We had breakout sessions where we could, like, basically just be poured into as all camp people who are, we're all working for the same purpose. That's kind of the heart of it. So just a time to recap and learn from other camps. Because, Lucas, anything else to add to that?
Huzzah!
It was a good time.
And another thing, I shout out to those who do Christian camping on a macro level, like Eagle Sky. Like, that's intense and not my cup of tea, but I'm glad it's somebody's cup of tea.
So. We got to Eagle Sky and we're like, great, we're here. We get out of the car, so the guy greets us. He's like, hey, what you guys here for? Like, yeah, we're here for the 3CA thing. He's like, all right, you're going to go 3 miles down the road. And we're like...
Yeah, what? 5,000 acres. 3-mile drive to get to the main campus. It's wild.
It's crazy. Insane. Everything, though, that was like that we needed to get to was pretty close. Yeah. In proximity to that. So I wish I could have seen more of the camp, but the snow kind of put a damper on that.
8 inches,
Yeah, and my sickness, but we won't go there. So I apologize in advance to all the people that got sick. But yeah, 3CA, it was great. It was good to connect with other camps. Digging Deeper, Lexy. Tell us about some Digging Deeper.
Yeah, coming up on Saturday, March 8th, I believe, Digging Deeper. It is a kind of a day-long workshop on how to study the Bible. And so, always a great time just coming together and...
Where are the men? Sorry.
Yeah. Most of the people that are signed up, actually all but one people that are registered at this point are women. So we're looking to pull some more men in. Really a great time. Very, very practical day of learning Bible study skills, both for the day, but then also skills that you can take home to benefit your own personal time in the Word. And so, yeah, it's going to be a great day of study and fellowship. So
doing it together.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a cool thing.
It's all about, say it with me, context.
I didn't know you were going to say
that. Okay,
never mind. Zero idea.
That's fine. So yeah, Digging Deeper, men specifically, looking at you. I'm looking straight at the microphone, which is looking directly at you. Art of Marriage, Lucas. We've got Art of Marriage coming up. Tell us about Art of Marriage.
Coming. We're busy. I'm just like looking at the things that have happened in the past couple weeks and are going to happen. Busy time here at Inspiration Hills. Art of Marriage has been going on for quite a while. We go through family life curriculum. It's really awesome, but past the curriculum is really just from what I've seen the past couple years of being in attendance, well, not attendance, but facilitating Art of Marriage and Art of Parenting, it's been really cool to watch couples come together and bond together and share stories and share grief and also share joys. So it's going to be a really great weekend. Hopefully it'll be nice so that we get to go outside. Mark and Barbie Schwartz are coming out, hosting. Great people. They're in Okoboji now. So
yeah, no, and Art of Marriage, it's a cool opportunity to meet some other Christian marriages. Couples, that's the word.
Christian unions.
Christian unions. So yeah, if you're on the fence, come on out. It's a good time. Final thing.
Actually, retract that statement, Jonah. Most people are. It's like full.
Unless you would like to commute.
Unless you want to commute, it's
okay. We are full. Sorry.
Don't want to give people a false sense of hope.
Yeah,
I heard this on the podcast. It's still open. Wrong.
2 people heard it on the podcast.
And most of them are not married at the summer staff.
At summer staff. Yep. Final thing here in the ministry news. This is sadly Lexy's last episode with us. Lexy, is leaving Inspiration Hills to do other callings. So. Lexy, you have anything you want to say?
I mean, yeah, it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure. Kind of crazy that this is the last one. Hasn't quite sunk in yet, but really thankful for the opportunities that I've had here at Inspiration Hills. And yeah, just excited to see what God has next for me, but then also to continue following along with the ministry here at camp, of course. So, yay camp.
Yay camp.
Yay camp.
So remember to keep Lexy in your prayers and thoughts as she moves on to a different phase in life. So anyway, let's move on to the main topic. Let's get a little bit more upbeat.
We really need to focus on respect because we have been lacking.
What?
Let's get a little upbeat because we have been lacking.
So the main topic, Lucas alluded to it. The main topic we are going to talk about today is discipleship. So, does anyone want to start us off on what is discipleship, why we do discipleship? I took the definitions from our discipleship sheets, so if you have anything you want to add or subtract from that, Lucas, you were pointed at, so I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I got pointed at. So disciple in the Greek and in the Bible, when Jesus is talking about his disciples, he's talking about them as pupils and learners, and that's it is not a foreign concept when Jesus first brings that into the picture. That's been going on for a long time, specifically for the teachers of the Torah and those kinds of things. They have the high priest would have disciples and people learning from them, and they would teach them in the ways of the Torah and the different sacrificial things and those kinds of things. So this is not a new idea that Jesus brings into the picture, but it's very much a God-given construct, if that makes sense, as social beings, as people to know and grow in Christ. Oh,
wow.
I also pulled the definition from Bible Hub. It says a learner, a disciple, well, that's in the name, but whatever. A follower of Christ who learns the doctrines of Scripture and lifestyle they require. Someone who is catechized with proper instruction from the Bible with its necessary follow-through and life applications. Mm-hmm. So I like that little synopsis from
good.
Bible Hub. Yeah,
for sure.
It's really good.
How we've defined it at Inspiration Hills on our official documents is a relationship between two Christ followers intending to grow closer to Christ together. And I guess the next question is kind of why discipleship. I'm just going to read this. Our journey of faith is not meant to be done alone. We see this across the Bible with relationships like David and Jonathan, Timothy and Paul, and the disciples and Jesus. After returning to life after camp, campers are typically on fire for the Lord. We want to help fan this flame. Our goal is to assist campers in continually knowing and growing in Christ. Yeah, you guys kind of came up with that definition. I kind of changed some of the lingo in it, but I think that really does envelop kind of what Inspiration Hills is looking to do with discipleship. So what does the structure of discipleship look like at IH? Lexy, I'll let you explain this one.
Yeah, so kind of starting broad and narrowing the focus a little bit. I mean, anybody that comes on property or anybody that we are interacting with, even off campus, I would say, is an opportunity for discipleship. And because discipleship can look a lot of different ways, but I think ultimately it's just, we're seeking to fulfill our mission statement here, helping people come to know and grow and be challenged. And so that takes place with anybody that's here. So if, starting large with our guest groups, and then of course campers, we're always looking to disciple them in the ways of the Lord, pointing them to Christ, teaching them how to read the Bible for themselves, and helping them to develop those habits of being in the Word and what that looks like for themselves, but then also within the different communities or families or friend groups that they have. So a lot with campers, of course, and then we have our retreat attendees, same thing for those people. And then with the chips, I think we might talk about that a little bit later, of ways that we're looking to continue the ministry of discipleship at camp with the chips, with the high schoolers that are looking for that, and specifically. And then for us as a programs team, we do quite a bit of discipleship with our summer staff. We do both one-on-one, so I know each of us are or have in the past kind of met one-on-one on a regular basis with someone, and really it's just a time of getting together, being in the Word together, encouraging one another, praying together, and kind of just, walking alongside each other in and through life. It's been a blessing to be on both ends of that. I think we can all say that pretty confidently. And then as well as we do what we call Wounsel and Mounsel, and so it's kind of discipleship for the men and for the women as a group. And so just coming alongside each other and in training, what does it look like to be a man of God? What does it look like to be a woman of God? And how can we grow in godliness in those perspective ways?
Yeah, that's good. In just you talking with that, a lot of our discipleship is, aside from summer staff and when the chips come around, it's providing the space for discipleship to happen, which isn't always thought about within the realm of discipleship. But when you are allowing for that to happen and encouraging and preparing the space, and indirectly, if not directly, talking with guest groups or campers, counselors, retreat hosts like Mark and Barbie or whatever it is, you're encouraging them, empowering them to disciple, to do their work as disciple makers.
There's different. I've been trying to figure out how to say this, but there's different. You said it in your notes, Lexy. Discipleship looks different for each groups, each person, each mission, and there's different. I'm gonna say how rigorous you go into it. There's I am very intentionally reaching out to this person weekly, daily, but there's also they are here for 3 days. I'm going to do what discipleship I can in those 3 days.
Right.
So there's different levels of
Yep, for sure.
dedication, I guess, depending on the context. So, it's not. It's not intensity. Thank you. That's the word. Gosh, words are hard sometimes. But yes, there's different intensities based on need. So a lot of fruit does come out of discipleship. I know I can speak to that. I think we can all speak to that. Lexy, do you have any stories? Anything to say on that?
Oh, I feel like I could talk about this for hours. Something that we're all passionate about, of course, but personal testimonies of being discipled, for me, really came from Inspiration Hills and from my time as a summer staffer, and then joining full-time staff as well, just our predecessors, as we say, with Christy and Paige and the other staff that have kind of walked these paths before us, just older people in the faith that have intentionally poured into me. And, you know, during different times, that was a more weekly, bi-weekly, more intensive, you know, doing a Bible study or counseling or kind of check-ins and that sort of thing. But also times of just, honestly, friendship kind of in a way. But that friendship still is discipleship in a way. Being able to have mentors in the faith to look up to and say, this is what a godly woman for me looks like, and what are qualities that they are portraying just in the way that they live their lives that emulate Christ, and how can I seek to do the same in my life. And so that's been super formative for me, especially in these, you know, college years, post-college years, kind of a transitional phase of life of just coming into adulthood and being able to look up to those people. So, I don't know. That's had a huge impact on my life. So,
you're drawing out a really important theme in discipleship of they're not just one of your teachers where you ask questions and they give you answers, right? You're walking with them. You are part of their life, right? It's not like you're in the classroom and then you're gone, right? Yep. That's not how discipleship works.
It's not teaching.
Right.
It is teaching, but it's not exclusively teaching.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. There's so much more involvement in it, which sometimes helps you grow or challenges you in ways that just teaching can't.
Right.
You learn a lot more that way sometimes than just a lecture.
But modeling is a huge way to learn.
Huge.
And then tactile, like being able to like serve with them in different capacities. Like that's discipleship right there. You know, those are important things that can be lost. I'm not saying that we always lose them, but they can be lost.
And I think there's something to be said that not everybody maybe values that or looks for that. Like they don't know the power that discipleship from older mentors, you know, whether that's a year older or whether that's, I mean, you can be the same age, I think, at times, but or people that are more mature in the faith
spiritually mature
than you. And I think that's a humbling thing, but also it's just, what a great thing to be able to seek that out, or to be able to have other people like look at you and intentionally say, I'm gonna devote time and involvement into this person.
Yep,
that's good.
Lucas, you want to tell us about your experience with discipleship?
Yeah, pretty. I mean, I would say similar to Lexy's. I think that discipleship for me has come a lot from camp, but also from relationships that have come from camp directly. And I've never it's never really been like a regular structured. It's never been a structured discipleship. But like meetings with the pastor that is at the church right now, Van Rathbun, has been huge for discipleship within ministry. With Josh Lucas, it's been huge with battling temptations and those kinds of things. With times with Tanner Mans, it's just sharing our struggles, our thoughts, our joys, and those kinds of things. And then, of course, my dad has been a huge discipler in my life, as all fathers are called to.
Naturally. And
just being, I mean, they aren't the most organized relationships in the world, but at the same time, they've been very impactful. And, I think that just hammers home that each person needs God is really faithful, right? God is extremely, also Lyle Lundgren, can't forget about Lyle. But God is really faithful to provide people within your life to disciple you in that time for that season, right? Lyle was big for me in the summer of 21, right? He was the Chiefs chaplain. He was huge in encouraging me. Paige, I would say that Paige taught me a lot too within not only camp ministry but biblical literacy. Christy taught me a lot about leadership. We could go on, right? And disciple. You know, it's not like there's nothing in the Bible that says it has to be for a set time or whatever it would be. So
yeah, I think that's really important too. You know, how you pulled from there. Yeah, we have people in our context at camp that have discipled us in different ways, but then that's also come from people in the church, and I think that's huge too. You know, that just as you said, God is faithful and provides people for different times of our life, but also from different areas of our life to speak into us. And I know that's been huge for me, just with people from my church as well, on top of the people from camp. And it just, I don't know, the more people that I have pouring into me, the more fruit, Lord willing, will come from that. And the more that I can learn and pass on to others is always the goal, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't until I came to Inspiration Hills that I really started to see the benefits of discipleship. And maybe I had disciplers in my life that I didn't know about. But a lot of times I viewed it, and I think the other party also viewed it as teaching and not discipleship. Minus family, obviously. But, I've always seen discipleship as teaching and not as coming alongside someone, I guess, if that makes sense. That has nothing to do with, that's your mindset, right? And so when I read Instruments, that was fundamental in changing my mindset towards what true discipleship actually looks like. Because there's a time for teaching, but there's also a time for that more personal touch to the teaching. I don't know when I planned on bringing this up, but I think an important factor in discipleship is realizing, now this is going to sound cliche, but it's my favorite saying. I know Lexy has said it multiple times. We're not, and Lucas, you have too. It's from Instruments. It's not about change of behavior. It's about change of heart. And that sounds corny until you actually dig into what that actually means. Because if you change behavior, you're not actually changing the cause.
You become whitewashed tombs.
Exactly. Yeah. I've never heard that before, but sure. Yes.
It's in the Bible.
Awkward.
Jesus talks about it a lot.
So if you change someone's behavior, you're not changing the actual cause of the problem. Because if they don't understand why they need to change said behavior, then nothing actually changes. So I can change my behavior so I tog every day. But if my heart posture isn't in the right place to actually get anything out of that tog, I haven't actually changed. So just the importance of understanding why heart posture is so important when coming alongside someone. And I think, Lucas, you when I first started discipling someone, you said it's I don't know how you phrased it, but you're not after changing. You're not higher than them. In regards of, you're both walking the same faith life. Just because you're more spiritually mature maybe doesn't make you a better person or a greater person. But the importance of humbling yourself in that way.
And recognizing that, we are not in charge of changing that other person. Like, only God can do that.
Correct.
But how can we use the resources that He's given us to point others towards Christ, and to kind of help be an agent of that change as God allows.
Yeah, and praise God that He chooses to use us.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. That kind of goes into, we've had opportunities ourselves to have discipleship, whether that be in a group, leading Bible studies, one-on-one discipleship, which is a newer thing for me that I'm still learning a lot about, so I'd love to hear your guys' experience with that as well.
I mean, I think we've touched on a lot of the things that I've taken away or learned through more intentional kind of one-on-one discipleship. We've touched on a lot of it, just we're not really necessarily there to preach to that person and be like, do this and this and this. It's all relationally founded. And so that's kind of a freeing thing to learn, but also kind of a challenge at the same time. Like, yes, I'm there to, take questions or to, I don't want to say give advice, but help people in their struggles, whatever they're struggling with, to be there for them in that space. But also, I don't need to know all the answers, and that's something that I've had to learn, and I think am continuously learning. The point of discipling isn't that I have all of the right answers that I can tell you. It's, okay, what are some questions that I can follow up and ask? How can I help you wrestle with this thing? Where in Scripture can I point you? How can I pray with you through this question, through this struggle, whatever it is that you're going through? And so really just providing the space for people to be able to wrestle with that. And another big thing that I've learned is just being vulnerable with that other person or within a small group context, and how much, I don't know, how helpful that can be for others, but also for myself. Just like, as Jonah, you were saying earlier, we're all on the same level, if you will. Like, I'm not holier than you are because you're, haven't been a Christian as long, or because you're younger than me. No, we're all on this road together. And so here's how I've struggled. Like, I'm a human too. I'm fallen too. I need God's grace every day just as much as the next person does. And I think that being able to kind of make that known provides the space then as well for that relationship to continue, and for them to pour into me to encourage them. And so,
Well, within that vulnerability, like, I think that unexpectedly or even unconsciously, when you're discipling somebody, there's a expectation of perfection. We just talked about this, right? With your dog life, Jonah. Of like when you slip and we don't do things, like, you feel like, I failed, right? I did not devote myself as much as I should.
Yep.
Right? And it can be the same in our discipling relationship. Like when I'm discipling Scoob, or when I disciple Attican, or maybe Micah, it's like there's almost like this underlying thing of like, I'm expecting you to be perfect, right? But when you're invulnerable, right, that gets stripped away. All that we're seeking after is a closer walk with Jesus, right? At the end, at the heart of it, this whole journey of life, right? It's not all about the journey all the time, but it is about the end, right? And the journey is how we get there, and how God is preparing us throughout that, and how can we help others on the same journey that we're all on.
I said it last week, and I'll say it again because I think it's important. Having other people be able to see your flaws makes you more relatable. And that's something I read in Instruments. I know I'm talking about Instruments a lot, I'm sorry, but it's what's on my mind.
It is all about discipleship.
And yeah, it's like, if they think you're this perfect human being, they're not going to be able to relate to you. There's a reason we all like Iron Man in Marvel. It's because he's relatable. He has character flaws. And in the same way, we need to be able to be vulnerable to people in that way too. Sorry, my film just came out.
It's all good.
Just came out.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
I like to think of... this analogy kind of just came to my brain, so bear with me. So if we're looking at just people, right? And we think of ourselves, we're putting people on a graph of how holy we believe they are. If we take God out of the picture, there seems to be vast gaps between our graphs. But if you zoom out and you look at how holy God is compared to how holy, I'm putting this all in quotations, right? This is all like human standard. But if we zoom out of this graph and we see how holy God is, it just looks like all of those dots are just a straight line.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So it's important to keep God in that picture and just realize we can never do a life perfectly, but that's why we're in it together.
Yeah, there's a
Did
ton.
That analogy make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
there's a
good.
ton of humility in that analogy too. But R.C. Sproul's got this analogy too of like putting two people on the opposite ends of the room, and one of them represents God, right? And then the other person represents Hitler, right? And then he takes somebody else from the audience and puts him next to Hitler, and is like, you are equally distant from God without God, as Hitler was in your holiness. And then he picks somebody else up and puts them right next to those three. That's Paul. And that's humbling too, to think about the greatest, best, arguably, teacher in the New Testament, aside from Jesus, is right in the same boat as us.
Right.
Right? And we see how God used him, and we see the difference between God and people, and it's a humbling image. And we need to keep that in mind as we're discipling people.
No, that's really good. That goes along with it too. That's really cool. Anything else on discipleship? On our experience with it?
The discipleship looks different for each person. Some people need a book. Some people need to read the Word. Some people just need you to be there. Right? And that's okay. There's no silver bullet when it comes to discipleship. I know for me, when I first started discipling, it's easy to compare in a negative way of like, oh, they're doing so much better than I am, or compare in a different way, in a very prideful way of, I am doing a bang up job so much better than this other person over here. Right?
Sure.
That's an easy thing to fall into. Right?
There's two opposite ends of that spectrum.
Yeah, and I think it's good that we're drawing out the theme of humility within it.
I went to a breakout session at 3CA this past weekend. He was talking about mentorship specifically, but
What's the difference?
It was basically discipleship is what he was describing. But a lot of what he talked about was, it's great to have structure. So in my case, when I'm discipling Frankie, I have that structure of the book. But the more important part that I've come to realize is that unstructured talking before and after and prayer together. Those things are way more important than getting through the book. Frankie, I don't know if he listens to this, but he apologizes every week. He's like, I didn't get it done. It's like, I don't care if you got the reading done. We're still going to meet and we're still going to talk. And sometimes that means we play Minecraft together. I don't know. It's fun. It's great. But it just reaffirmed my thinking of like, sure, it's great to have a structure, but that relationship is more important than teaching them something. And like, or teaching myself something, because I learned a lot from that book too. But yeah, so it was, there needs to be structure, but that talking and relationship you build is the important part. So I guess the final question here is, how do we hope to continue to expand discipleship and our discipleship ministry here at Inspiration Hills? I guess I'll kind of get into it a little bit, because I guess this is my emphasis, if you will. Something Lucas and Lexy, before I got hired on, worked really hard on was Chip's discipleship, and getting that off the ground. So they got a lot of the details done. But it's, I think it's really important to come alongside those high schoolers in that way. So Lucas, jump in here, help me out. I guess why Chip's discipleship specifically and not like any other camp? Like, why Chip's?
Sure, that's a good question. Well, Chips are high schoolers. They have a desire to learn and to lead. And we want to build them up in any way we can. Those are going to be our future counselors, right? On a business level, right? This is our way to raise up future leaders in our camp, and then hopefully future leaders in the church. And yeah, the Chips are a special group of people. The things that they go through in the summertime, the things that they devote themselves to, I think that is our demographic to start with, right? And if God blesses us with a vision to continue to grow our discipleship to others, then great. But this is where we're feeling called to start.
And even beyond the potential hire as a summer staff, it goes with the last part of our mission statement, equipping people to go out and use what they've learned here, be challenged for life in God's kingdom.
Because they're at a formative time in their lives,
Exactly.
right? They're on their way to graduation, and then after graduation they go to college, right? And wherever you go to college, doesn't matter if it's a Christian college or not, like, you are going to be faced with questions. Those questions might be, is God real? Or those questions might be, is same-sex attraction okay? Or those questions may be, how much alcohol should I drink on the weekend? Or those questions might be, am I really living a holy life? You know, those are all like deep introspective questions that every college student asks.
Whether they go to college or not, even the ones
Right.
that graduate and go into work or go into the military or whatever they're going into post high school is going to be different than high school. And so,
Yep.
yeah.
We try to equip our summer staff in the same way, and I think it's important that we pour into chips that way too. So that's kind of our next steps for discipleship at Inspiration Hills. So cool opportunities, and I'm excited to see where God leads us in that way. We are going to move on to podcast panel. So 5 minutes before we started hitting recording, we had 0 questions. Now we have 4 fantastic questions. I'm going to push 2 of them to the next episode. But the 2 we've got today, one from Grace Draffin. That's right, Lucas's wife. Everybody, Lucas's wife. This is kind of a fun question. I kind of like this one. So how hard, I forgot to read this last time. If you want your questions on this podcast, please email Lucas at Inspiration Hills or Jonah at inspirationhills.org, and we will feature your question on the podcast. Potentially. Depending on, things. But if it's a good question, there is no reason we shouldn't do it. This question is from Grace Draffin, and it says, how hard is the IH swim test? I think it's pretty hard because I'm not a strong swimmer. Lexy, do you think you could pass the IH swim test?
Yeah, I could pass the IH test.
So your answer...
But I was a fish growing up, spent all my time swimming in the pool.
Wow, so evolution is real.
We're going to table that for the next podcast.
Micro evolution. Oh my gosh. Lucas, I know you said before the podcast you couldn't pass the IH
I've never officially passed the IH swim test.
But do you think you could?
Well, Grace was at the pool this past summer, and maybe it was the summer before, either one. And she was like, "You want to do a swim test?" I'm like, "Okay." So I did it there and back, and she said I passed. So
I'm the only one in this room who thinks they probably couldn't.
Perhaps. Okay, so here's the flaw with the potential flaw with our Inspiration Hills swim test. It's that there's an extreme amount of temptation to touch the ground. Right? That's where...
Because it's right there.
Yeah, that's where I always trip up. I don't have enough self-control to not have that happen.
Sure.
Right? And I don't feel convicted enough in that to pray for more self-control to not touch the bottom. But...
Should we continue living in sin? Sorry. Anyway... shout out to my sister. I know she listens to these podcasts. Did I ever pass level 1? Text me. Let me know. I don't think I ever passed level 1 in swim tests. I just remember I have trauma. Sorry. This is a funny story.
Is Jonah trauma dumping right now?
In Cherokee, we would do...
Cherokee!
Yeah, we would just... We're not far from Cherokee, where my house is. But the person who was my trainer... He's like, all right, you're going to jump off the diving board and you're going to like it. And I was literally crying. Like, I got up there and I was about to chicken out and run away. And then they had a lifeguard come up behind me and toss me in.
No way.
Yes.
That's wrong.
That is ethically
That's so ethically wrong.
I screamed on the way down. I'm pretty sure they asked my dad, and my dad told them to do it. I don't have confirmation on that.
That's so ethically wrong.
Regardless.
I'm pretty sure they had permission. I'm pretty sure that unless that was a dream.
It's like pushing somebody off the zip line.
It's like, disclaimer,
sure.
we would never do something like that at Inspiration Hills.
So, I'm just saying.
Jeez.
Wow.
Not an unfounded fear, I don't think. But, so, Grace, to answer your question, depends on who you ask. Most campers can pass it. I cannot. But
I like telling the campers that I've never passed it. So if the program director doesn't pass it, it's okay, then you haven't either.
Yeah, exactly. That's a fun fact to be able to tell a camper who's very distraught about their not passing, which happens every year. Yep. Almost every week. Mm-hmm. So I hope that answers your question, Grace. All right, Lucas, the next question is one that you pulled in, so
Chris Bauer.
Shout out Chris Bauer. Still waiting for you to come visit Inspiration Hills.
Anyway, I've seen him in a couple weeks. I'm in New York.
Ah, great.
Yeah. Yep.
Tell him hi for me.
I will.
Great.
I will. Well, never mind. Anyway, He asked, what do you currently feel is the vision God has for Inspiration Hills over the next 10 years or so? I think that we should all pick one aspect of camp, and then we can answer that. We don't have to look at broad. But, so for me, I think, that what I've been thinking and seeing and desiring, I guess, is us to be more focused on the local church. As a parachurch ministry, and how can we come alongside those churches instead of staying on top of the hill like we've been doing. So I think that I think that God's got a vision for that, and he's got a desire for us to get out there and be involved, and in whatever capacity that might be, whether it be like some things like digging deeper out to the churches, or just being able to be a place where churches come and use our space to connect deeper within their church families. Our pastoral care system, how that works, our help in training leadership, whatever it would be. So that's something that I see.
You know how you say, like, you're never not working when you work at camp? Mm-hmm. Because, like, especially when you go to a new church and you meet the pastor, like, you're always, like, trying to establish that connection. I had that this weekend.
Where'd you go?
I was at a baby shower at a church in Orange City. I'm forgetting the name because there's so many churches in this area with so many same but different names. But Clompine, Bethel, CRC, maybe?
Oh.
In Orange City. No, not Bethel then. It's a church in Orange City. Clompine is the last name. And I was talking with him. He has a son that was my grade in high school.
Oh.
So we were just reconnecting. And I found myself, like, plugging, like, oh, yeah, there's ministry rates. You could come get a cabin.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I was like, oh, my gosh. I just did that subnaturally. I did that naturally. I didn't even, like, think about it. I just, like,
it just kind of naturally comes.
Yeah. And I was like, what is happening?
But I think that speaks to Lucas's point. You know, that's, you know, we're not just this place on a hill, like, completely separated from everything else. Like, no, we're here, to support the church, to bring people in, and what a great thing to share about.
Yeah, because that's a heart posture behind it.
For sure,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think another area, I know that we've been wanting to grow in, or continue growing, is just looking at our programming, whether summer camp or otherwise, and just kind of asking the question of why are we doing the things that we're doing, and not necessarily always in a negative way. I think sometimes that can get a bad rep, but just like taking an honest look at the programs, at the activities, and say, okay, what's the purpose behind this? How can we do our programs, do these activities better, or facilitate them better in a way that helps kids, helps whoever be able to make those connections and learn something about God. And, not just doing something just to do it or fill time or waste time, but how can we make the most of the time that we have and, create, we like to say, teachable moments from that, and provide that space for them to be able to make those connections and to learn and grow through that way, aside from, just chapel times or just Bible study times. So, purposeful programming.
Purposeful programming, that is a potential podcast episode, so we will get into that. But yeah, me and Lucas and Lexy sometimes too, we just say uproot, and then we like flip a chair or something.
I don't know if I've heard Lexy once say uproot.
I don't know if I've ever said the word uproot.
Yeah.
Well,
there we go. One.
Oh, got
the tally.
Yeah. So, and that what Lexy just said has kind of started rubbing off on already our coordinators for this upcoming
Oh my
year.
gosh, Austin is so passionate about it.
Austin is like, Can we uproot this? Can we uproot that? Can we change this, change that? And we're like, whoa. Love that you're thinking about this.
Healthy amounts of change.
Correct. Yeah. But
Purposeful change.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like, I loved when we took out pool chapel. Like, it was great for a time, but I think, like, campers didn't get much out of it, so we uprooted it, So I think it's always looking to improve our programming. That's a good point. I guess, I don't know why I'm, like, I think about this probably the most, like, how Inspiration Hills is gonna change, I guess, how we feel. Our ministry is going to change. And I think Saddle Up is, going to be a big opportunity for us in the next 10 years. And how we can improve Saddle Up. Because it's always been the heart posture of, how do we get more people to Saddle Up? That's been a conversation I've been hearing for 4 years. So I just think that's a way we can change. That's a big opportunity, and it's one of our most filled camps. It fills up within like 5-10 minutes. Some of the Saddle Up sessions do, of registration opening. So how do we get more campers in on that? That's where I was going with that.
Gotcha.
Anyway, I hope that, Chris, that answers your question.
See you in a couple weeks.
Anyway, I think that's going to do it for us. We're coming up on an hour here. We are at an hour and 6 minutes.
Oh,
wow.
My.
So
we've been in here for a long time.
Yeah, we opened the door
warm
halfway
in
through.
here.
So
sweating.
thank you guys so much
Putting deodorant on.
Yeah, I need to put deodorant on. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Know and Grow podcast. Be sure to share, like, and remember to go out there and know and grow in Christ, people.
Farewell, faithful followers of 2.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I just punched him in the face.
All right, bye.